Hey, Allison. Oh no. Desk setup doesn't work for the cameras.
Siobhan, can you hear me? Siobhan, are you able to hear me?
Yep. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
good.
Yeah.
Are you already recording? I just
Yeah, it
noticed
just
that.
automatically records, but I'll edit all of this bit out.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all
Good.
right. Yeah, surviving.
Yeah, you know, for a Wednesday.
Yes, hump day.
Absolutely.
Already looking forward to the weekend.
Gosh, I'm very bright.
It's dark in my office and one of the bulbs went out, so I'm not as bright. Usually I'm very, very pale. So this is nice. I'm getting some warmer tones for
Yeah.
a change.
Let's see if that.
It's the Irish in me, I think, and
Yeah,
Scottish. I've got
I
the.
think the same for me too. That's better. I'm not quite glowing quite so much now.
There you go. Looking good.
Okay. Yeah.
All
So
right.
I'm
Now,
going
one
to.
thing I just wanted to check,
Mhm.
just to make sure. So I've got share screen there.
I'm
I just
making
wanted
you
to. Go ahead.
co-host, so
Oh,
you should be
perfect.
able to share your screen, so you should be in control.
Okay. Let me I just want to try something here.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I have 3 monitors and because the laptop and then the one where I'm going to show and then, actually I don't need that other thing
I
open.
have the same thing going. That's why I'm
Okay.
looking this way. Whichever way I'm looking is because you're on one monitor, but the
Exactly. Now,
camera's in the laptop.
what I was thinking for the session itself, so once, introduce and what have you, but I was thinking maybe we should shut down the video because it does drag things down with the bandwidth, but what are your thoughts?
Yep, we can shut it down. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I just didn't want to, like, if you think that a talking head is they'd like to have that, then I can, but I will look over, of course, to the side throughout the recording as well. So I just wanted to check with you what you thought. I just have noticed that things slow down a little bit when everybody's sharing video. So just, perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Now I wanted to just share now when I have in here, I have share screens, which is great.
Yeah, so when you click on share screen, it should bring up a pop-up box and you should be able to choose which screen you want to share.
Right. Okay. So now, and that's perfect, but okay. So you should be able to see the screen, I imagine.
Yep, so I can see the title screen and then you're in like a little box in the corner.
Okay, perfect. Now, when I switch to Word, can you see that?
Yep.
Perfect. Because I have had, I don't know, it might have been because the school I was training for, they used something called Blue Jeans. And I'd never heard of it before, but that's what they use with their students. And it's basically like Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whatever. And I was sharing a screen and talking about it, and they're like, we can't see that. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's to do with their privacy settings on their end.
Okay, perfect. So there's the Westlaw one.
I can see it all here.
And then there's okay. So I don't have to share that right this second, but I just wanted to, now just said, stop share. Perfect. Just want to make sure everything's kind of in the right spot.
Yeah, no, you're all good. You're all good.
Okay.
We do have people in the waiting room.
I see that. That's exciting. And that's a big list you had. You had over almost 70 people, I think, right?
We're up to 80 something now.
Woo, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
So who knows? Yeah, they're very keen.
They're very keen. Hopefully I don't disappoint.
You'll be great. I was really impressed though, like with the variety, like from across the country, different practice areas, different stages they're at in their journeys as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were clerks in there. There was like a policy person or something, and articling student and lawyer. And I'm like, wow, this is, And then now, are they all actually right now at least located in Canada? Because some said like Mumbai
A
and
couple of them
India.
aren't. A couple of them are probably waiting to arrive because they've all got,
Oh,
some
okay.
of them have got landed immigrant status, but of course they can't enter the country right now because
Right.
of COVID. So they're trying to do everything they can to prepare for when they do
Okay.
arrive.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
So
Okay.
they're taking,
Yeah, because I just thought, oh, Mumbai, that's exciting. Like,
yeah, there's
wow.
somebody supposedly joining us from Qatar as well, from Doha. And it's really early in the morning in Doha, like the middle of the night time.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's
kudos to
fairly normal,
them.
though. We do get people who get up at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to join these sessions.
Really? Okay. Well, I mean, whenever it happens, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they want to be part of it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I think you mentioned to me too that you kind of switch up the timing a bit as well. Like sometimes morning, say out here
Yeah.
in
So
BC.
tomorrow our session is at 9 a.m. Vancouver time.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, we mix it up for different things for different people. And tomorrow is all
Perfect.
about parenting and law. So we've tried to pick a time when kids will hopefully be in daycare or in school. But then again, Ontario, no one's at school or at daycare, so it makes no difference for everyone in Ontario
Yeah.
right now. But we
Yeah.
did try and plan it where people wouldn't be having to juggle pick up and drop off whilst they were attending or part of the panel.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's
we did.
smart.
Yeah, and then because of course, like GLC, we have chapters from here all the way to Newfoundland.
Mm-hmm.
Have a 4.5 hour time difference just between our own chapters.
Okay.
So we try and accommodate that as well so that they're not always in Newfoundland doing it at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah. I was like 5 o'clock. I feel bad for the people in Ontario, and now I'm thinking, oh my, India.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. The
Um,
Ontarians don't actually mind because they just sit there and eat dinner.
oh, fair enough.
And
That's
for
true.
a lot of them, if they're working, and especially if they're in Toronto, they're working till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night anyway. So actually, the
Mm-hmm.
timing is perfect for them because they're just getting
That's
home.
true. That's true. Another reason why I'm not a lawyer. And a lot of reason I think a lot of the staff that all the lawyers we have at Thomson Reuters, it's because they wanted more balance, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
with a more of a 9 to 5 kind of. I mean, obviously we work different and more hours depending, but
yeah,
it's a little bit more consistent with balancing between work and
yeah,
life.
absolutely. Yeah, there is no
So.
such thing as balance anymore. COVID has gone, balance has
Oh my
gone out of the
gosh.
window in any.
Hasn't it though? It has. And I think I can't remember if I mentioned it when we were chatting before, but I just feel like I've been doing more and sitting and I look over and I'm like, wait a minute, it's 5:30. What the heck happened? Because you just start responding to emails and then or for me entering stats or
Yeah,
whatever it is. And then you realize, well, shoot, look what time it is already.
yeah,
Where did that go? And then I'm like, yeah, my one toe feels kind of numb. I've been sitting here just a little too long.
yeah. I
So,
saw my RMT yesterday, and he's like, "So how many hours are you sitting for these days?" And I was like, "Double what I used to do." And he was
yeah,
like, "Yeah, okay."
yeah. No, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I would do say half and half. So I would go downtown and stuff, and I'd sit in my car, but there's still the action of getting to your car, sitting in it, yes, but then once you get there, then walking to wherever. And sometimes I would try and park a little further so
Yeah,
that I would have a little bit of a distance to walk, depending on the weather, obviously. Um, but now it's like I walk downstairs. I am working out, so I try to fit that in at some point during the day just to break it up.
yeah.
Um, but
It's not the
it's a
same though.
lot.
I
It's
agree.
it's
It's not
not
the same.
it's not the same. No. And I mean, granted, I am an introvert, but I do like to get out and do need interaction. So, you know,
It happens.
it's
All
been
right,
much
we've got
more
some
difficult.
people. I'm gonna let them in.
Oh yeah, go for it. Let's
Feel like
chat with them.
bounce them in before I told you they were coming. Hello, hello, everybody who's joining us.
Hello. Welcome, welcome.
If you want to turn your cameras on, you can do. Allison would love to see your beautiful faces. And if you would like to introduce yourself to Allison, you are more than welcome to. You can either unmute yourself and say hi, or you can use the incredible chat box down below, and you can just, maybe tell her where you're joining us from, what stage you're at in your legal career, and what practice area you're in. That would be great.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be awesome.
And also, this is a great opportunity for you to introduce yourself to all of the other attendees as well, because remember, these sessions are not just about learning, they're also about growing your professional network as well. So this is a great way to see if there's somebody here who is maybe doing something you're interested in, and then you guys can connect.
Exactly.
Oh,
I
there's
see
the
Rachel.
lovely Rachel.
Hi.
Look at the background you got going on there, girl.
Yeah, otherwise you would see a big light glaring in my left side. So you get
Got it.
Toronto, which is where I
Yay!
am.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm in my home office, but I'm near Vancouver. I need to clean this up. It's actually not that great, the background. But when I add those fancy ones, I always find that like I'll move my hand and suddenly it disappears.
Oh yeah.
Or like body parts start to disappear from it. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll just leave. I'll just rearrange my office at some point, I think. Perfect. Look at you guys all joining. Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
Siobhan, you look like you're talking, but you're muted.
I muted myself so I didn't like make noise over the top of you guys, but I was saying Rachel is our Ontario Bar Association WLF representative, so that's the Women Lawyers Forum.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Welcome.
She's been very integral with supporting GLC and some of our initiatives, and she's spearheading a mentoring session. So if any of you are joining us and you're based in Ontario, we have a speed mentoring session coming up. So make sure you check out the glcanada.org website. All of the details are on there with registration, and you can sign up, but sign up quick because spaces are filling up extremely fast.
Yes. We had our meeting today, and we only have 2 spaces left for Tuesday and just a handful for Wednesday.
There you go. So if you haven't signed up, I would recommend that whilst we're waiting for everyone to join us, you go and sign up.
Do it now, and do it before everybody else joins, because they'll find out too.
Absolutely.
Not enough space. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, so I guess to introduce myself, I am a solo practitioner in Toronto. I practice in wills and estates and real estate, and what I like to term seniors law, which is basically just trying to figure out ways that I can use law to benefit seniors in most aspects of their life.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and yeah, as Siobhan said, I'm the chair of the OBA WLF. And we have all these great programs coming up, and they are open to people outside of Ontario. In fact, we have 3 registrants that are not in Ontario for the upcoming programs next week. But yes, they do charge a little extra fee for non-members. So that's the downside to that. But, you know, if it's something that's in your wheelhouse, we'd love to see you there.
Fantastic. And Madison has introduced themselves in the chat box. They are a junior call who articled in Saskatchewan, and now they're here in Vancouver. Yay!
Out here with me, woohoo!
And they practice civil litigation and admin law primarily, and they're here to brush up on their Canadian research skills because they were out of traditional practice for a year to complete an internship abroad. Ooh, that's fascinating.
That's lovely, yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Well, welcome. Madison.
Yeah.
Remember, Madison and anyone else in BC, you get CPD credits for this. So
yes, I was going to ask you about that, Siobhan. I like when I do sessions for the firms and things like that, I actually post it on the courthouse website or the library, or sorry, can't speak at all. The Law Society's website, there we go, so that the lawyers can go and claim it. Now, do you want me to do that, or will you be doing
It's already done. So if you just search for Global Lawyers of Canada on your LSBC account, then you will find it. So just type in Global Lawyers of Canada and virtual mental office hours, and you can claim an hour for this session.
Perfect. That's awesome.
In Ontario, if you're in Ontario, we've applied for CPD credits, and as soon as we get approval from the LSO, we will be emailing everyone who's attended the session so that you can claim your credits for that one. And everyone in Alberta, you don't have to claim credits this year. Woohoo!
Well, you don't do they claim credits at all anyways?
No, but they've also they don't have to file a CPD plan this year either. They've been given an exemption because of COVID. And if you are outside of Ontario, Alberta, or BC, and you do want to claim credits, then by all means contact me, and we will go about trying to get credits for you for this session as well.
Perfect.
And for those of you who are articling, you don't have to claim credits this year. So enjoy the year of not having to claim credits.
You're good to go. But in future, all of the training that I do, or any of our learning consultants, by the way, we have them in all across, you know, Canada. So you're welcome to take any of our training sessions plus webinars and things like that. They do count towards CPD credit as well. The ones like in Ontario, they will give a certificate. They're automatically accredited. And then BC, I post it for the individual or the firm, and then you just go claim it. So there you go.
Fantastic.
And it's for practice management. So everybody loves that one.
Yeah, it's always a tricky one to get you credits for.
Exactly. Looks like we have a bunch of people joined. I'm not sure how many. I can't see on my screen or tell.
We've got 20 here at the moment. So.
Very nice. Oh, so actually what I see on the screen is everybody. Okay, yeah. Some of the services I've been through, I use WebEx mostly, but then there's Teams. I was telling Siobhan, I used something called Blue Jeans, which I hadn't used before. One of the schools was using that. And then some places will use Zoom. TR or Thomson Reuters, we don't use Zoom. So even that, I'm still kind of learning some of the some of the ins and outs of the various ones. But some of them will put a little number in the corner and tell you, a total of how many people have joined. Not that anybody cares, but I'm just like, they're all different. They're all different.
Juan's here too. Juan is a Mexican tax lawyer currently enrolled in the LLM Common Law program at Osgood, and so new to Westlaw.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Now, if you're in tax, eventually we're going to have, I think, a tax session, right, Siobhan? So sign up for that one as well, and we'll do TaxNet Pro for you. And Shazia, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Which one is best? I'm assuming you mean like the various platforms like Zoom and things like that. If that's the case, I personally prefer WebEx. And I'm just, maybe that part of it, so I'm comfortable with it, but it does. And actually Zoom is pretty good too, because both of them allow for polling and, whiteboards and different things like that. I find that Microsoft Teams isn't there yet. And in particular with WebEx, I can actually grab the chat and move it to a different screen. Teams does not allow you to separate the chat from things, so it's very difficult to see when someone puts something in there. So for me personally, I like WebEx. Blue Jeans was a whole new experience last week. So I don't have much of experience with that one, but I say Zoom and WebEx are the top two.
Yeah, I think Zoom's become very popular over the last year or so.
It has. Now, when COVID first started, I recall people would have they didn't set their privacy settings properly. So people were jumping in on other people's meetings. And I think with Thomson Reuters, they're just like, nope, that's not happening. We're not going to use Zoom at all. So we just use Teams, and some of us, and it's really, I think, just the trainers now that still have access to WebEx, because we like using the polling and things like that. So there you go. But yeah, Zoom has become very popular. I think as long as you just set your privacy settings properly, there's really nothing to worry about. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll give it 2 more minutes before we get started. Give a few more people a chance to join in, because I know it's kind of late for some of you.
Yes, thank you for joining from all over. It's only 5 o'clock here, so it's not so bad. While we're waiting, I'll just mention to those that have joined us, and I see pretty much all of you except for Rachel, Siobhan, and myself have your video turned off, which is absolutely fine. What I was going to suggest anyways is when we get started to recommend that you probably shut it off, and myself included, just because of bandwidth issues. It tends to slow things down, and then there's a bit of lag. Unless you guys really want like a talking head, I'm happy to stay on the screen if you would prefer that. I will look the other direction, so you can let me know in the chat if you prefer actually having like a person there, then I will leave the video on. That is not a problem. But if you're fine with it and don't care, then I will probably turn it off again just to kind of save the bandwidth on the session. I was telling Siobhan that I was just training I think I was telling you, Siobhan, that I trained the other day actually, and the video was really affecting the session. There was quite a bit of lag. I was babbling on about something and the individual couldn't see it because it took a couple extra seconds for the page to load. And it depends on where you're calling in from too, what your Wi-Fi is like. So there you go.
Absolutely.
Oh, looks like we have, and I'm not sure, is that Zena? I'm not sure if that's how you say that. If so, hopefully I didn't destroy your name. Hello and welcome. Licensed paralegal, is working in an immigration and tax law firm. Excellent. I live somewhere in Ontario, just somewhere. I'm born and raised in Ontario, so I was in there somewhere as well. If you guys, anybody knows Owen Sound, Ontario, if you look on the map, it's right under the elephant's tail. So there you go. Perfect. Enrolled in Canadian Common Law program at Osgood. Excellent. The event seems interesting. I love doing legal research. Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Zina, you're far better than me. I hate legal research. It's like the bane of my existence, but it's something we have to do. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I agree. I hate it too, and that's why I'm here. Make it better, please.
I'm going to try. I promise. I will try. There are no guarantees in life. I will do my best.
You know what? I'm going to suggest, Allison, that you get to kick this off very soon. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is a very special Westlaw Wednesday with GLC, and Allison Bale is our trainer tonight, and she's going to be going through some of the key parts of Westlaw that will make your lives and my life easier when it comes to legal research. So Allison has very kindly put together a presentation with some actual real life examples of the types of things that you might be doing, and then she's going to show us how to use the software to like get the best information out of the software. So she's very kindly offered to open herself up to questions from all of you as well. So definitely use the chat box. We will do Q&As. We're going to sort of let Allison go with her presentation as much as possible, but then if there's like natural pauses, then we can check the Q&A box and we'll interject and we'll tackle it as we go along, but there will also be Q&A opportunities at the end. So Allison, thank you so much for joining us. It's really lovely to have you here. We've been talking for a little while now, the two of us, backwards and forwards about doing this session. So I'm really grateful that you were here today and to teach us some of the ins and outs of Westlaw, because I used Westlaw when I was back in the UK, and it wasn't super intuitive back then. And I know that there's lots and lots of development that's gone on. I mean, we're talking, you know, over a decade ago when I was using Westlaw. So lots of developments have happened. And there's some really handy new features, or new to me, at least, features that I think will make life a lot simpler for people going forward than maybe if they were thinking back to a decade ago when they were using Westlaw like I did. So I'm going to hand over to you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for showing up. Much appreciated. Siobhan, though, I didn't know, were we going to do a poll about experience? Did you want to do that? I don't know if you want to do that at all, or if we just want to bother with that. We kind of have we kind of know that we have like articling students and lawyers and things like that. Did you want to do a poll, or? Oh, never mind. First of all, where are you joining us from? That's our first poll. So if you guys want to just answer there, just so we have a rough idea. I know a couple people did put it in the chat, but it doesn't hurt to see. And also what stage you are in your legal career. Perfect. These polls are actually really cool. I may have to put Zoom up on my list of the platforms that I like to use.
Yeah, the poll feature is really handy, actually. We've been playing around with it the last couple of sessions we've been doing.
Wonderful.
They're kind of fun.
No, that's great. That's great. Okay. So it looks like we have quite a few here in BC. The majority are in Ontario, elsewhere in Canada, and elsewhere in the world. Welcome. I do see in the chat, I like using Westlaw more than Canly. Well, thank you. It's more organized and has more advanced features. Perfect. Okay, and what stage are you at? So yeah, we do have a mix. We have the NCA candidate, we have articling students, and we have practicing Canadian lawyers. I think I saw some clerks on the list as well, and such on the attendee list. So welcome to everybody. That's perfect. Okay, so we can just end that poll. Okay, I think Siobhan is doing that. And then I don't know if you want to launch just the other one, just to get a rough idea on where they stand with their use of Westlaw, and then we'll get right on in there. And while you're doing that, I will just check the chat here, and I do see Mayoa. I'm hoping I say that right as well. I apologize if I destroy anybody's name. I do not mean to. You're an international student at Osgoode Law studying international business law. That's wonderful, and I'm glad you're excited about the webinar. I actually went to York University for, I might as well introduce myself while we're doing this. But I went to York University. I have an English degree. I'm not a lawyer. But I did work at Osgoode Hall Law Library in resource sharing, or what they used to call resource sharing. So to just date myself a tiny bit, I used to have to take the reporters off of the shelf, walk over to the photocopier, photocopy the pages, staple them together, and then then I had to either, well, if I didn't staple them, I had to fax them, or I had to actually ship them, or they would have a courier come pick up the cases from the school. So there you go. All right, Christopher's here too. So hello everyone, articling student from Toronto. And I follow Christopher on Twitter. Welcome.
Say, you should be slightly familiar with me. I'm very familiar with you.
Yeah, exactly. Myself and Alan.
Yeah, both of you. You guys are a hoot on Twitter.
Oh, well, thank you. That's great. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. All right, so we're just going to look at this last little poll here as well. And I do see we have some beginners, some intermediate, some power users. So we do have a bit of a mixed crowd as well. That's perfect. Okay, I think I'm just going to end polling because we don't have a huge amount of time. But the majority, it looks like, are more on the beginner sort of status. So some stuff might be more like refresher for some of you, and some of it'll be brand new. Okay. And then last but not least, we do have Zachary in the chat as well, junior lawyer from Vancouver, just starting out. Wonderful. Articled in Winnipeg and made the leap out west. Well, it's beautiful here. You can't blame you. Awesome. All right. So if we just want to close that poll, Siobhan, if you could do that, that would be awesome. And then what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm actually going to stop the video again. As I mentioned, it does kind of drag things down a little bit. So no one mentioned that they had to have me on the screen. I'll come back at the end. So I will stop it for now. Perfect. And I'm just going to actually close that. There we go. So I'm going to share my screen with you. There we go. All right. So you guys should be able to see on your screen. It's just basically the Westlaw Wednesday sort of advertisement that Siobhan had done, as well as my information over here on the right. So as I mentioned, I went to York University, etc. I am an executive.
It's not showing yet.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, blonde moment. WebEx shares automatically. This one has you choose the screen and then says share. So my apologies on that one. Thank you for Siobhan for letting me know. Perfect. All right, so now you should see the screen with my information there. So you'll notice my email address is here. We are going to send some sort of follow-up as well. Either Siobhan will, or I'll have your information as well, and I will send a follow-up directly, so you'll have my contact information should you have any questions after the fact. I've also put up here the WestlawNext Canada homepage for you in case you want to sign on. If you guys already have a username and password, you're welcome to follow along. I have been with Thomson Reuters. It used to be called Carswell, if anybody has heard of Carswell. I've been around, it'll be 25 years actually in September, so I've been around a tiny, a little while. I won't say what my age is, but you can roughly guess, I'm sure. All right, so what we're going to do here is I am going to just go through. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go to the next slide. There we go. All right, so you guys should be able to see sort of our agenda, our goal for today. Hopefully by the end of this session, you will be able to use WestlawNext Canada to, one, get a better understanding of the legal issue that you're working on, okay, using, commentary and things like that. Hopefully you'll have a better ability as well to find case law and legislation quickly and the ability to note it up using our service called KeyCite Canada. We want to go over the little bit of searching as well, connector/Boolean style searching. It's a little bit more precise, a little bit more exact. So we're going to talk a little bit about connectors as well. And I'll show you as we go along various things like folders and annotating in the service, as well as client IDs and your history. These things help you keep track of your research and they help to keep you organized while using the service. But to get us going, before we actually start and get in there, I just wanted to, or I was thinking, why not start with one of the questions actually that I received from the registration survey, because I thought it was an interesting one. So we're going to start with that. The question is, how can I effectively conduct research within 2 hours and still get all necessary information or materials that I need? It's an excellent question, actually. Unfortunately, there's no real easy button in the service or any of our services which just say, here's my problem, can I have the answer? So the 2 hour time length, may or may not, it might be a little bit shorter, could be a little bit longer. It'll depend too on what is being requested of you. What are you required to find, and what are your needs? What is also your level of familiarity with the subject matter and the research product or products that you're using? And then here's just some steps that I might recommend for you. Okay. So for conducting effective legal research, the first thing I usually recommend is to begin with a plan. Okay, so you want to, get all the information you can. You want to identify the task at hand, and what are these broad legal concepts that you're dealing with. Then you also want to consider what resources you're going to consult and brainstorm possible search terms, and think about who can assist you or help you along the way. Some of you are already in law firms, so you may have a librarian. Oh my goodness, the librarians are amazing. And will totally help you out. So definitely, if you're in a firm and you have a librarian, that is a great resource for you. Also at your firm, if you are working at one, senior lawyers, experts in their field, check it out, ask them questions. They can be mentors, okay, so take advantage of that. And of course, not everybody is in a firm and has access to that, but you do have your courthouse libraries across, Canada. So courthouse libraries are amazing. The staff in there, the research librarians are wonderful and very, very knowledgeable. So again, I highly recommend them as well. Okay. Now, I would then probably have a look at secondary source materials. In fact, that would be my starting point once I actually get into some service, again, like WestlawNext Canada. Use sort of finding tools like classification schemes that are built in, or indexes or indices. Search the encyclopedias, texts, articles, all of that lovely commentary is really going to be helpful. And then become familiar with the subject matter. And that's using, that commentary. It's going to give you a better understanding, holistic, understanding of that particular area. Look at some key decisions that are referenced within the commentary, and, give yourself or get yourself some refined keywords from that. There's no point in you reinventing the wheel. So if someone has your answer, why not start there? So commentary can be an excellent starting point for you, and it can push that along and make your research maybe time a little bit shorter. Okay. You want to consult primary law, so your cases and your legislation, of course. And then you also want to validate it or note it up. Because you want to make sure, is this still good law or not? And on our service, it's called KeyCite Canada. I think QuickLaw, they call it QuickCite. So if you're familiar with that platform, it's something similar where you're finding the documents on the service that talk about the case or piece of legislation that you happen to be looking at. Then I would also, advise maybe keeping track of your research and your work using, on our service in particular, the history service, as well as folders, very, very handy within that. Okay. So just want to mention too, if you start to find that you're getting the same results over and over again when you're taking all these sort of different kind of approaches and going to the secondary sources and the primary law and whatever, I'm going to suggest that maybe you've probably found everything. And so at that point, you might need to stop your researching and maybe start writing or advising, even if there's no clear answer at that moment. You're going to want to know sort of the best tools to use, and that takes experience and training. So again, WestlawNext Canada, Quick Law, Canley, all of those great things. And this is also where a librarian can help you, again, either in the firm or at the courthouse libraries. And one thing I want to let you know, and you heard me mentioning other products, but don't get tunnel vision, okay? So not everything is in one service. Clearly, I am representing Thomson Reuters and WestlawNext Canada. And I love it. It's a great service and they pay me. But there isn't one service out there that actually has everything. So you should go out and see what's available and try to exhaust all possibilities. So you may want to access Canley, Quick Law, and our service as well. Okay, maybe you have a favorite though, start with that platform. And then, depending to where you are and what access you have, courthouse libraries may help you out with access to either say Westlaw or to Quick Law. And Canley's, anywhere. So you're good to go with that. All right. Also, I want to mention too that, some of these steps that I've mentioned here, they can maybe be skipped as well. Like if you already are really, you already really know that area of law well. So if maybe you have a leading case that deals with that area, start there. And then maybe use our Canadian abridgment to find, more cases, and maybe note up as well to find other cases and secondary sources that can help you. Okay. All right. So let's kind of move on here. Obviously, you don't want to sit here and stare at a PowerPoint the whole time and listen to me babble. Let's get on in there. Now, I just want to start off by saying I realize that you all deal with different areas of law, okay? But because we have such a short time frame tonight, I wanted to just kind of pick one area and one sort of scenario that we can work with. But just to let you know, all the features that we're going to see, it doesn't matter what legal issue you're working on, the functionality is the same. Okay, so you'll just have to adapt it to, your own area of law. All right, so I've chosen a particular scenario. So you should see that on your screen right now. So you have a client and she says her company is trying to use a mandatory retirement policy to limit the age of their workforce, and she is being forced to retire. So your client wants to know, can they do this? And what options does she have? Now, our goal tonight is not to find the answer necessarily. It's really to go through the service and looking for the answer, getting a good idea of that particular area. On the right-hand side, I've kind of reiterated that sort of that previous slide that I had that kind of walked you through the steps to conduct, effective research. You want to identify your areas of law. Well, we're dealing with employment, sort of human rights, that kind of thing. Brainstorm those search terms. Well, in this instance, again, search terms could be human rights, could be age and discrimination, that sort of thing. Once we get into Westlaw, we can review all those secondary sources, the case law, and we can note up to see what else is out there. All right, so that's what we're kind of working with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go live. There's the website again, should anybody want to, follow along as well. I'm just going to stop the slideshow. And if you cannot see it, please let me know, but you should be able to see the WestlawNext Canada sign-on screen. Okay, so hopefully that is on your screen right now. Okay, so username, password, if you guys already have it, go for it. Follow along with me. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. The first screen you're going to see, just ignore it. I have 6 different passwords, so we're just going to bypass that. All right, next screen you're going to see is the first one you will normally see, and it is that client ID screen. So this is something you can use to track your research. Now, if you are at a law firm and they choose to charge back, it could also be used for that. It gets fed into something we call the reporting system, and there could be a suggested retail cost for certain transactions. We're not talking about that today, but I just wanted to mention, because some of you, are calling in from a particular law firm that you're working at right now. And they may do, as I say, that kind of thing. They may charge back. But this is really, the main purpose really is to track your research for yourself. Our service has a history built into it. Some of it is over here on the right-hand side, but it does actually track the last year's worth of everything you've done. Here, it keeps track of the last 50 client IDs that you've used, so you can choose from here and then continue. And you can also wipe it out and put a brand new one in if you like. Usually it's a file number or matter number, something like that. Okay, now you should be able to see the main screen for WestlawNext Canada. If you're going in, say, for the first time, or you haven't deactivated a particular window that pops up, in fact, I can show you what it is. It looks like this. I deactivated mine, but there is a little getting started video, there's a help guide, and it takes you into the help center as well. The reason I deactivated is because it's not necessary every time I log on to see that. Mostly because, one, I find it annoying. But two, in the upper right-hand corner, we do have a link marked help, and that will in fact take you to the Learning Center. So I do highly recommend you guys checking this out. This is a great way to come up to speed on the product. Even if you don't have access to WestlawNext Canada, have a look here. You don't need it in order to access it. And you don't need to go through WestlawNext Canada itself to get to the Help Center. Just Google you know, Thomson Reuters Customer Learning Center, you know, WestlawNext Canada. You can come on in here and it has functionality guides and tutorials, as well as done by content types, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay, and we also have this, if you're new to WestlawNext Canada, it starts from the getting started. It goes through case law searching and validating primary sources and customizing your experience all the way down to where you're going to continue your learning. So there's a whole pathway to the law right there for you. Okay, also there's certifications to go to town. You can become WestlawNext Canada certified if you like. All right, so this is the main screen for WestlawNext Canada. Before I get in there with our lovely scenario and our issue at hand, I'll just mention a couple sort of housekeeping things. Upper right-hand corner, you'll see a bunch of links. I mentioned the help one, but this first one here is the client ID. So if you'd like to track a different file that you're working on, click on this, and then you can choose from the last 5, you can choose from the last 50, or you can type a brand new one in there if you would like. So maybe we want one for GLC. Click on change. And now everything I do is under the GLC file. Where it goes, 2 places, again, one in that reporting system for chargeback, depending on the firm you go to or are at. But 2, and for me, more importantly, it goes into the history, which I mentioned is the last year's worth of everything you've done. And just popping in here for just a second so you can see, you can narrow down by the client ID. So you could say, what have I done in the last 30 days for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? I can also say, what documents have I looked at for that file? I could look at document view only, or just what searches did I run? But it's really handy. Again, it goes back a year. And technically, if maybe you're doing some work for someone else and they want to know what you've done so far, you could actually email or download or print, if you wish, the history itself. With the email and download, the links will remain live, and the individual, as long as they have access to the product, they can redo your searches and go look at the documents that you were in. It's actually pretty neat. I'm just clicking the logo in the upper left to pop back to the main page. That is the fast way to get there. Upper right-hand corner, we won't spend too much time, but I will also mention there are folders in the system. You will start out with one with your lovely name on it. And then you have your ability, or the ability in the system, to create as many as you would like, okay? Maybe you want ones for client files, and then you'll store all the documents that you come across in those folders. Maybe you want one for, you know, topics of law or areas of law that you're dealing with, whether it's employment or labor or family or human rights. Whatever it is that you like, you can create the folders as you see fit. Okay, super easy. Again, we're not going to get too in depth, but you just click on new and then you can create a new folder. So if I again want one for like GLC, I could do that, click OK, and ta-da, I have a new folder. The only thing I'm going to say is don't right-click to add new folder because you're on the internet. And so it'll give you browser features instead. Okay, folders are fully searchable. So you can do a Boolean connector search, which we're going to talk about. And you can technically, now I'm in my main folder here, but if I were to select this one, you can copy, move, rename, delete, export to Kindle should you desire, or you can share your folder with others that are at the place that you're working, so whatever firm you may be at. Okay, so just some really neat little features that you have. Okay, but super handy for organizing your research and also getting back into your research and maybe rerunning a search that you'd run. Maybe you need to continue on with what you're working. Maybe you had lunch and you've come back, or maybe it's you know, something that had come up last week and now you want to continue on. You might want to use the history. It's just a little faster. Okay. All right. Now, I did have another question, by the way, on the survey, and it says, why is everything or why is so much stuff out of plan? Well, it depends on your subscription. So depending on where you are, whether you're a student in law school, you'll have a certain set. If you go off to a law firm, you may be summaring or articling or such, you may have a different set of options. And if you're a sole practitioner, you may have limited yourself to more like the basic. So that could be why. So what happens at Thomson Reuters is we've separated out into these subscriptions. So the main one is Law Source. That's your general one. That gives you access to all of the Canadian cases, the legislation, gives you access to our encyclopedia of law, the Canadian Encyclopedic Digest. You'll also get the entire Canadian abridgment. If you want to find cases really, you know, quickly by topic, boom, that is where you go. You know, it also gives you certain journals and law reviews like U of T, McGill, Osgoode Hall, things like that. So it's sort of our general service, and then what happens is firms will add on. So they get the general law source, and then maybe they're a labor firm, so they'll add on labor source. Maybe they are a criminal firm, so they'll add on criminal source. What comes in these specialized sources will be specialized commentary. So if I were to click on, you know, family source, just as an example here, I know it has nothing to do with our topic, which we're going to go back to in a second. Here are the text and annotations that come with family source. And there's also newsletters. It could be weekly, monthly, that sort of thing, but it's all specific to family law, whereas Law Source is more general. Okay, so if you're subscribing to just Law Source, any extra commentary that could fall within these areas, it is going to show up out of plan. And depending on where you are, it could be blocked. Or it could be pay-per-view. It just depends on how you have your settings with Thomson Reuters if you've chosen to block. A lot of law firms will block for students. So they're not jumping outside the subscription and racking up a huge bill. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that while we're on the page as well. So the subscriptions, wherever you happen to be located, whatever your password is, you'll see on the right what in fact you do subscribe to. Okay. Over here on the left, though, our primary sources, our commentary, our court documents. We have forms and precedents. We also have finding tools on here, things like the abridgment or maybe an index, like the Index to Canadian Legal Literature. We also have some specialty things down in here that, again, maybe if you're not subscribing to, say, litigator, you're not going to be able to access the quantum services. And, you know, for personal injury, pick your body part and go and see what it's worth. The reason that these are down here is because they're a little bit specialized, and the reason too that they have an asterisk, any of these things with a star, if you guys are searching in the product, so this lovely search bar at the top, these are not included in it, okay? Because they're specialty items and you really don't want to search an index for one. Usually you just want to browse that, and for something like the quantums, they have specialized templates for it, okay? Technically, you can kind of browse around. Once you hit document level, if you don't subscribe, when you click on the document, it'll block you or it'll do a pay-per-view style screen. Okay. All right. So now getting around, we have our issue, remember? So we have that sort of, you know, human rights and age discrimination and mandatory retirement kind of issue that we're dealing with right now. Now, what I would recommend is kind of, again, getting an idea of that area of law, getting a better understanding of the legal issue itself. Now, in our service, we have a couple options. We, of course, can browse through the content. So click, click, click on a bunch of links. Ta-da, you have a bunch of documents. You can also find, so if you're in a different position and you happen to have a leading case or something, you could find that and then branch out from there, or you can do your fancy keyword searching. So our three main functions in Westlaw basically are browsing, finding, and searching. For starting purposes, I'd probably recommend browsing. Again, depending on what information you're starting with, right? Because that could change things up. But if you're wanting to get a good feeling for that area of law, maybe you want to browse. One great starting point is the Canadian Encyclopedic Digest. It's an encyclopedia of law, and it will lead you down to a lovely definition of that area of law. So great starting point. Another good starting point, the Canadian Abridgment Digests. Basically, it is a classification scheme put together where we file cases under a particular area of law or areas of law. And so you can drill down and ta-da, you have the cases that have been filed under that particular area. So fast way to find cases by topic. Where I would maybe start with the CED though is you need an understanding of that area. I would start maybe in there first, get the definition. It actually has links that lead you into the Canadian abridgment. Now you can do these things, separately, but we have a slightly newer feature which you may not be familiar with, and everybody thinks it's just a title. We have the Browse Legal Topics over here on the right-hand side. What it does is it browses the CED, it browses the CAD or the Canadian abridgment, okay? It also browses, some text annotations, commentary on the system. It'll also browse a service called Legal Memoranda, as well as another service called ProView, which is actually outside of Westlaw, and Practical Law Canada as well, which is again outside of Westlaw. So why browse one when you can browse a bunch? Okay, so over here on the right, I'm going to click on Browse Legal Topics. And again, if you're following along, feel free to click and choose whatever area you like. But to keep it kind of on topic, we're dealing with maybe a human rights issue, right? So I'm going to click on Human Rights. And within human rights, we've got some constitutional issues, applicability of human rights legislation. What constitutes discrimination? Hey, that's kind of handy. And look, we have a section for age. So how perfect is that? Now, there's a little plus sign. And so you can drill down into whatever area you like. So you can see these are all hypertext links. What I usually recommend for this particular area is to actually choose a slightly higher level. So you might be interested in mandatory retirement, dealing with, say, corporate employees or something like that. You could click this, but because there's so much content that isn't normally built into a classification scheme actually in here, I would highly recommend probably going a little higher. So maybe mandatory retirement, or I might even go all the way up to age. You're going to get more documents, yes, but we have filters built into the system, which will help filter things out for you. Okay, so I'm going to click on age here. And again, instead of browsing just one area, I have now browsed the case law, the encyclopedic digest, legal memo, various text annotations. We have a couple of services as well, cause of action and proof of facts on the system. But again, those are separate subscriptions, so you may or may not have access. And in this instance, I actually didn't pull anything up. We have ProView here as well, and practical law resources. Okay. Case law, I could click on that if I want to start there. Now, I did recommend probably starting with commentary, but I'm just sort of showing you through the list here. But you could technically go to the cases. You could go here to resort. They are done by most recent first. You could do most cited, so most talked about, or maybe highest court level if you like. Or once you've chosen the content type here, if you haven't noticed or you haven't had a chance to use it very much, if you scroll down, you can now do a keyword search in the documents. You can choose English and French. You can choose, I just want the last 3 years. You are down to 36 now. The filters are your best friend. Maybe you're interested in BC or Alberta or federal or maybe Ontario. Check off the box. And then it will load up the documents for you. And again, you can come up here now and resort. You can also do court level, subject area. They're going to be human rights, obviously, but they may deal with employment or constitutional issues or labor or public law. You can also go further in an abridgment classification if you wish. You can pull out, hey, you got a favorite law report? Go for it. Maybe you like the DLRs or the LACs. And I kind of joke about it, but cases are chosen to go into Reporter for a reason. They are selected decisions, so you're not going to get every case under the sun in a Reporter. Maybe, I don't know the exact percentage, maybe 10, 15% of all cases make it into a Reporter and are reported, okay? So could be a good starting point. So especially if you're dealing with, say, employment law, you might want to check out the Canadian cases on employment law. But Reporters are a good starting point to kind of hone in on maybe some key decisions. You also have by party, judge, counsel, all of those lovely filters, and we'll talk a little bit about more of those as we go along. But to get a better idea of this area of law, CED or the Canadian Encyclopedic Digest. Maybe you're interested in human rights discriminatory practices under anti-discrimination enactments. Maybe you need to know a little bit more here about age and definition of age. You can click on that, It will come on in here. It tells you the meaning of age and anti-discrimination enacts as intuitive, blah, 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 or enactments as intuitive, etc. So you get a little definition. But if you had started in here, there's a link to the Canadian abridgment to pull up the cases that fall under human rights, what constitutes discrimination, and age. Everything's kind of connected. So it's very, very user-friendly and fairly intuitive. It just takes a little bit of practice because there's a lot of cool features in here. I will mention too this little menu bar across the top, so feel free to use that to return to your list or go document to document. Or in this instance, the CED is technically a book, so you can go section by section or page by page here as well, or browse through the table of contents for it. Okay, I'll talk about the other ones in a little bit. I'm going to return to list though. Legal memoranda, not every firm subscribes to this one, but the summary is free. So you won't get the full memo, but you know, check it out. What remedies are being awarded in cases of age-based discrimination in employment? That could be handy. What's kind of cool is the summary is free, gives you the legal issue. Sometimes there's a fact scenario, but what it really does is it gives you links to all the cases that were used in that memo, as well as links to legislation. Excuse the scrolling, look away if you get nauseous. But statutes and such as well that were used within that memo. So guess what? Those all deal with this area of law. So it's a great way to find cases by topic as well. Okay, so even though you may not subscribe to memoranda, legal memoranda, the summaries are free and very, very useful. Text annotations, there's your commentary. Now again, if it's not part of your subscription, it'll say out of plan, out of plan, out of plan, but it does not hurt to see it in the list, okay? Maybe you don't subscribe to Employment Source. So the Canadian employment law text is not available to you on Westlaw, but maybe you have it on your bookshelf. Maybe you have it, you can go get it from the courthouse library or have, you know, get that text somewhere else. So it does not hurt to see it in here. There will be another way to find it. And if you're, you know, at a firm and you're lucky enough to have, you know, an amazing librarian, ask them where you can get it or if they can get it for you, okay? Don't forget to ask for help. It does not hurt. It does not make you look weak. It's good to ask questions and get a better understanding. All right. E-loose leafs on ProView, we'll save this for another session, but I'll just mention we do have another service that basically we've taken loose leaf services and we've digitized them. So you would be able to jump over to another platform. It's just, it looks across it as well at the same time. So you'll see it in the list here too. But again, if your firm subscribes, it'll look like my screen. Otherwise I'll say out of plan, out of plan, out of plan. Okay. And then practical law is for another session as well. But there's a practice note, some commentary dealing with age discrimination. So that could be handy. All right. All right, so I'm going to return to the WestlawNext Canada page. What we just did there is we just browsed. We wanted to get a better idea or a feeling for, you know, the area of law that we're working on right now or dealing with. I used the browse legal topics so that I could browse multiple areas. So the CED, the abridgment, the texts, the legal memoranda, etc. Just kind of getting a broad, you know, range of content and stuff that's explaining and giving me a better understanding of the area of, you know, age discrimination or, you know, human rights in general. Okay, so great starting point. Now, what if, though, with this, maybe we already know of a case and we want to look for that. All right, we do have the ability technically up here to look for something. So you may have noticed that if you've typed in a name here, and you'll see some cases are listed and it says view more. Now, you know, God help you if you're looking for Smith. But if that is the case, this will only show you about 20 of sort of the most cited, you know, highest court decisions. So you're likely not going to find it here, okay? And clicking on the search button, that is a no-no if you're going to put in a case name because it's searching across all the primary, all the commentary, and all the court documents in one fell swoop. And I've hit max of 10,000 in a few areas. So that's not a good thing because that's looking in full text, not in the name of the decision. Okay, so I'm just going to return here to the home page. What I would recommend is the find. Some of you may have used this in the past and some may not know it exists. A lot of people hit it by accident because they've put some keywords in here and they click find instead of search. So you will see this here. We have the case name field, so I could put Smith in here and I could choose Manitoba as an example. We've got people from all across Canada here and the world. I'm going to click on the magnifying glass, and then it just pulls those back for me. I have 411, 411 information. And then on the left-hand side here, I can filter out. So remember those filters, super handy. If you have the name Smith, try, hopefully you've got some more information as well. So we had Manitoba, that's great, but maybe you know a little bit more, like it was from the last couple of years. Maybe choose the last 3 years or do a specific date range or something like that to kind of narrow it down. Or, maybe you know which court it's from. As you can see, we list the various courts. That's something to note as well for those coming into Canada and are looking at our court system. They have different names for the courts across Canada. Our lower court here in BC, we have a provincial level, of course, but we have the BCSC, which is the British Columbia Supreme Court. In Ontario, it's the Superior Court. In Manitoba, we've got the Court of Queen's Bench. So we have different things. We all have appeal courts. And then, of course, it goes off to the Supreme Court of Canada. But it's just something to kind of take note of, that we have different names for our courts. Okay, but you can filter out by the court level as well, subject area. Again, all of these filters we saw before. Maybe you know that the Smith case is by Judge Smith or something like that. You could put their name in there as well. One thing I'm going to show you here, though, is you're looking at the list and you're like, where's Smith? It's actually searching the whole style of cause, or all of the parties that are involved in the case. So they may not have made it to this short title, but Judy Smith Hill is part of this particular decision. Okay. So just so you are aware, it's not just looking in here, it's looking at all parties of a particular decision, which is really actually quite handy. Okay, so I went from 411 down to 6, and then hopefully down to 1 very, very quickly. Just going to return to WestlawNext Canada here, and I'm actually just going to mention a couple more things, because on the odd chance you may have a citation. It doesn't happen all that often, but you might have one. I have a few in here, as you can see. If you have an LAC, so labor arbitration cases, or if you have a CCC, the criminal cases, or the BCLR, that's British Columbia Law Reports. DLR, if you have a neutral site, you can put it in here. Quick law, not as much. We do have some of the quick law parallel citations, but not all of them. So just something to be aware of. And another thing to be aware of, you can put up to 30 citations at a time in here. If they are incorrect, the case will not load. But I'll show you what you can peek at for those that are not aware. This little area here at the top, it says, would you like to view? Don't click on it, but look. This case that has the 1000 at the end, the incorrect citation, it does not have quotation marks around it. That's letting me know that's not in the list. So if you put in like 15 citations, you can do up to 30, separated with a semicolon, and you're just like, oh wait, I don't think all of them are here. Have a look. The one without quotes is the one, or the ones that are not in your list. And so maybe your citation is incorrect. But you'll notice no periods, brackets, spaces are required. Very, very friendly. Okay, and so too, with keeping with our issue at hand, maybe we're looking for the Human Rights Code as an example. Well, in BC, it's the Human Rights Code. I think it is in Ontario as well, but I got caught in a training session. Alberta, it's actually the Human Rights Act. Oops. Okay, so it's a different name too for legislation, province to province. You can put a section in if you know it. If you're not entirely sure, you can just leave it and you can choose, say, the jurisdiction. We're going to do Alberta this time. Click the magnifying glass. It's going to bring up the whole act and all of the sections with a little search option here. So if you were looking for maybe discrimination, oops, I can't type today, and it's all recorded, terrible. I could put that term in and see which section of this act actually mentioned the word discrimination. I could also say, and the word age or something like that, so I can find the section that maybe deals with that. So if you're not entirely sure which section, you can still use the find, just don't put a section in, choose your jurisdiction, and then do a little search in it afterwards. So that's a little trick for you. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm just going to return back to the home page. So that is your find. So what we did is quickly look for a case by name, drilled down, used the filters to pull out that particular Smith decision. We talked a little bit here about citation entering as well, and you're looking for legislation. So just a quick way to find it. So sometimes, as I say, you're going to have that specific thing that you're looking for, like the citation for it. Maybe as an example, just so we can show you how to note up here as well. I want, say, 187, and we're going to do an LAC because we want to kind of stick along with our scenario. Maybe this is a key decision for us. Use the magnifying glass. If it's just one and it doesn't come in English and French, guys, it's going to go straight there as well. Okay, so I'm going right into the case. If you're not aware how to note up in our system, it's super easy. If you actually want anything about a document that you're in, look up. You got the tabs across the top. Okay, so history is where this particular decision has gone through the court system. It will give you the little text version over here, as well as if you're a little bit more visual like myself, it will give you the graphical version. So it went from the arbitration here to the Queen's Bench. Okay, so it went from a tribunal up to the Queen's Bench level. It was affirmed, in fact, by Queen's Bench. So it was agreed with. Now, if you want to fully note up, you need the treatments as well, okay? So the treatments are going to be in your citing references. It's going to be the cases or any documents essentially on the system that maybe mention this particular case. So we have 2 cases and we have 11 secondary sources. If I click on cases just to show those, I will then get filters for case law. So if you have a big list, that's good. That's good to know, okay? Secondary sources, again, great place for you to start. But if you have a key decision and maybe it's been mentioned in some secondary sources, this might be a good place to go. Canadian Labor Arbitration 5th edition. Okay, Brown and Beatty, that's a favorite in labor law. All right, so that's how you note up. Your history and your treatments are at the top. So I just wanted to mention that. Same is going to go for legislation. It's going to be the citing references tab at the top. So just look up. Okay, so I'm going to turn back. We did start a little bit late, so hopefully we have a little bit till a little bit after 6. Siobhan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because we still want to go into the searching part of it and find, a bunch of documents on our topic. So Siobhan, feel free to stop me whenever you are ready.
Until people disappear, we are good.
Oh, excellent, excellent. We could be here all night, guys. Grab some dinner.
Before we move into the search section,
yes.
though, did we talk about erasing client IDs? Because you talked about how it held like 50.
Up to the 50, you cannot erase them. So if you do, if you do make a boo-boo and you put one in, it will eventually disappear from the list once you hit, we've hit like 51. The oldest one is going to disappear from the list because it only keeps the latest 50. Eventually, it will go away.
Okay, hopefully that answers that person's question then.
Oh, perfect. Are there other questions in the chat as well?
There was another question that suggested maybe this could be like feedback for your developers, maybe that maybe give you 2 options or 2 warnings that you're going to go out of plan and be charged.
There are for most documents, guys. So for the first one, when you are in a list, it will say out of plan. When you click the hypertext link to go into the document, it will provide a second window that comes up and says, this is out of plan, it's going to cost your firstborn. I'm just kidding. And you can cancel out of it at that point. So just in case you didn't see that out of plan little banner, maybe you're zoomed in a bit on the screen or something, it will in fact show you. So there's really 2 things. The only thing that doesn't have that is legal memoranda. And that's because, remember I showed you that little summary screen? That summary screen is free. So it doesn't put an out of plan banner on it, but if you were to click on a link, I didn't show you the link itself, but it was at the top, and linking you to the memo itself, that's when you get the warning that says, this is going to cost you. Do you want to continue or cancel? So we do have 2, but I do think with legal memo, they need to actually put it on the other screen as well, or somehow signify. I think each should at least get 2 warnings. But I will mention that to head office that maybe even there's other, kind of methods or things that we could do to make it a little bit more prevalent on the screen for you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Taking that feedback back. One other from Rachel is, if we do an advanced search, are we charged?
Okay, so everybody that signs up for the product, who purchases the product, they are on a flat rate subscription for it. So on a yearly subscription, you'd pay amount and then you can just use the product essentially, okay? Other than, of course, stuff that's out of plan. So those documents would be above. So if you did decide to do pay-per-view for a document, it would be on top of your subscription. Now, law firms choose to charge back clients for certain transactions sometimes. Now, it's up to the firm because they are not real charges. They are what we call notional charges or suggested charges. So if clicking on this, say, search button as an example, that does have an associated notional charge, but it's not real. Your firm can make it real so they can charge back, but we at Thomson Reuters aren't charging you for that. As I say, you're on a flat rate subscription for the product. So basically, if you are in a firm right now and they are charging back, what is being charged back? Two things. One, search. So if you do click the search button, that is a fake sort of notional charge that your firm can use if they want. Two, commentary. So any sort of commentary documents that are within the system. So an article or a journal or even the CED, it is a technically commentary. So each of those documents would have a suggested sort of notional charge associated with it, again, that your firm can charge back should they desire to do so. Primary law, your case law, your legislation, noting up, the Canadian abridgment, all of those things have absolutely no notional charge associated with it. So you could run a search that might have a notional charge. I don't know, I can't remember what it's at now. Sorry, it's about 20 bucks, we'll say, that you could charge your client if you wanted to. But after the fact, if you looked at 500 cases and noted all of them up and jumped to other cases and things like that, your client was charged 20 bucks. Right? Because that's primary law that you were looking around in, and none of the filters that we use, that little search within, or any of those filters going down to say BC or Manitoba or what have you, they have no notional charge. So hopefully that answers your question, or if that wasn't what you were looking for, then please throw it in the chat and just let me know, and we can also take it offline if necessary. Okay, Siobhan, was there anything else?
One final one, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
Perfect.
Is if you wanted to search your 51st client ID, for example, can it be done? Can you search beyond just the last 50? Can you look at the older version, older ones?
Yes, to an extent. So they're not really, I wouldn't say searchable, but if I am in my history as an example, because they're also attached to the history, which is the last year as well. So there's two actually things. One, if it becomes that 51st, you know, whatever, it could be booted from that drop down. It's still in the system until it's over a year old and then it's gone. Okay, so it's still technically there. So you would be able to come into the history here and you could see more client IDs. So for whatever time frame, so if I say all, so the last year, I'm going to get a whole bunch of different client IDs now. These are based on whatever time frame, so whenever you happen to have used them. Does that make sense?
Excellent. There you go. I hope that answers your question, Param. Perfect. All right, let's move on to searching.
Let's move on. Wonderful. So we've done some browsing, we've done some finding. Let's get in there and do some searching. Now, in our service, we have some different options. We try to appeal to all audiences. So depending on how you like to search, I think we've covered all bases. So we have, to start off, actually, before we click into this little search box here, we have templates in the system. So if you're a little bit more template oriented, not a problem. This advanced link over here is a Boolean search, but it's like training wheels essentially. So you're maybe not as familiar with the connectors, and or you just prefer to use these boxes because it's a little bit easier to type in. But all of these terms, that's an and search, means your documents or your term story have to be somewhere in the same document, or there's your any, this or that. So like a car or an automobile, if you're dealing, say, with taxes and like a taxable benefit or something. This exact phrase, it's looking for literally child custody. Okay, you can exclude technically, don't ever, this is a little tip for you guys, okay? Exclude, I don't use it, ever, as a connector, or what happens is if you use that, it's going to say, your document has to have this, this, and this, but not this. If that term is anywhere in the document, that document's gone from your search result lists. All right, so be very careful if you decide to use our exclude option, and I think most services have it. Some of them, they call it, like ours, we can type in but not. That's also an option here. You can see it over here, but not, and the little percent symbol. Gosh, I couldn't think of that for a second. You can use that as well. I don't recommend it, but I'm just telling you it's there, just giving you the little warning. Technically, you can look by citation in here, but I don't bother. What you're going to notice, though, is this template is very basic. And the reason being, I'm going to return to the home page here. I clicked it from the home page. So this page is searching all primary, all commentary, all court documents, as well as O'Brien's. Okay, again, anything with an asterisk is not being searched here. But that's what that template is doing. And there's so many different content types that it can't really give you, I don't know, a gigantic template that covers all of those little sort of areas. So what if you're interested in case law, click on cases. Okay, one, you'll see the box at the top, switches, and now it's only searching case law. So that is an option for you too, and you can drill down into BC and into contracts if you want, whatever you want to do. But if I click advanced, I now have a case law template. Judge, counsel, head note. Not everybody realizes that this is here, but you could drill down further so that the template here is actually case law, but just for BC or for, Nunavut, I don't know, whatever it is that you happen to be looking at. Okay. Also, statute and regs. If I do that, then click advanced, it's going to be a legislative template. So it's kind of neat. You can actually sort of create a template based on the content that you're looking at, if that interests you, if you're more template oriented. Personally, I use the box at the top, okay, which comes to our other two options. One, natural language, or I like to call it Google style. So this box, that's what it defaults to actually. So if you just type in a bunch of words, again, sticking with our theme of, say, human rights and, age discrimination. Okay, if I type this in and I click search, it's going to search through all of this lovely content, but it's going to do more of a Google style search. And you guys have used Google, so it tries to find the terms, brings up the documents to the top that have the terms maybe a bit closer together, or maybe they're mentioned a lot more time, that kind of thing, which is great. But as you get lower in your list and they become less relevant, they may not have all of your terms even in it, just like Google. The terms could be like human rights could be human at the top of the document and rights at the bottom, and they have nothing to do with each other. So it can be a good starting point if you're just unsure and you just have some topics, some terms, I say go for it. But depending on what terms you're using, you might hit, the max of 10,000. It just depends on what you're looking for. We recently, if you were not aware, for those that have used the service before, we split out cases and board and tribunal decisions. So previously, cases would have maxed out at 10,000 for us here. Now, because we've split them here, it actually allows us to get, more of them, which is kind of nice actually. But still, that's a lot. And again, they may not be quite on point. All right, it's not a bad thing. You could take a look in here and you could see, even just looking at, the classifications and such. Okay, well, I'm looking for human rights, age discrimination. Oh, maybe I should look for mandatory retirement. I should add that up there as well. So you could if you wanted to. Okay, one thing to note about if you do hit a max of 10,000 in a category, I would highly recommend, and not all, of course, but say for case law, I would highly recommend redoing your search. It has maxed out at 10, and it's brought back what it thinks are the top 10,000 documents for you. And if you go in there to filter out stuff, it's only filtering those top 10,000, not all of the, say, 24,000 that maybe have come, could have come out of that search. So just something to be aware of. If you do see the 10,000 here, you do want to redo it. Okay. All right, so I would probably personally do a Boolean style search. That's my favorite. So we can do the plain language, as you can see here, but we can also do Boolean to make our search a little bit more exact. So let's say, human rights is a phrase. So I'm putting quotation marks around it to look for it as a phrase. Let's say just as a starting point, I'm not entirely sure, but age discrimination, maybe I think it should be a phrase. So I'm going to put quotes around that as well. And then, maybe just for now, I just want to see them in the same document. So you can use ampersand, or you can type in and. It does not have to be capitals. I just put it there because it's easier to visualize and to see that it is in fact a connector. I just want you to see what happens here because some of you may not be familiar. We do have a couple connectors in here that will still default to a plain language search. Quotation marks can enhance that plain language or Google style or natural language style search, and or are both words as well as connectors. So the service isn't entirely sure what you want to do. Do you want to use and or as a word, or are you looking to use it as a connector? So it just goes to its default if those are the only connectors you use. WestlawNext Canada ran a plain language search, display using Boolean. So you can click that to flip it over. However, I'll give you guys a little trick. ADV, it's now an advanced Boolean style search. It's going to skip over that plain language, and now definitely this phrase and this phrase have to be somewhere in the same document as each other. Okay, this is great. Personally, guys, I'm not a fan of quotation marks unless you know it is a term of art. It's always written that way. But even something like child custody could be custody of the child in the judgment, okay, or in the document. So I would recommend probably not using quotes. Now, human rights, it's likely that, okay, so it's probably not, you know, it was the person's right to be human. So if that's the case, you know, maybe leave the quotes on human rights. I would probably get rid of the S because it could have been a person's human right, you know, to not be discriminated based on their age. Or it could be, you know, human rights. So it could be singular or plural. If you were not aware, in the Boolean world, it's very strict. Singular will get you both singular, plural, and the possessive. But if you put in plural, that's all she wrote. Okay, so err on the side of caution always. And I would take the S out of there. Okay, I would also get rid of this. You may or may not have noticed, if you were looking at the results at all from our sort of Google style search, there were terms and they were spaced a little bit far apart, like so age and then discrimination was a few words away. Or, you know, maybe it was a different form of the word, okay? So speaking of distance-wise, one of my favorites is /s. So /s is sentence. In my follow-up that either Siobhan will send or myself, I will include the Boolean chart for you guys, okay? But it is available in the help as well. And it's fairly similar to other services. We might have some slightly different, and you know, some we each have I want to say an order of processing. Okay, so there is an order of operations. Everybody think back to math class and BEDMAS and brackets, exponents, and all of that good stuff. Same is going to go in here. You can use brackets, in fact, if you're a little bit more visual and want to make sure something is quote unquote calculated first. That is an option. But speaking of the different connectors, /s is same sentence. So it's going to put age and discrimination in the same sentence, which is awesome. P is paragraph. So it just broadens it a little bit. And so they can be in different sentences, basically age and discrimination. They just have to be within a paragraph. And then you can also put any number from 1 to 255. So if I want these within 5 words of each other, this means they could technically be in different sentences, but they're within the range of 5 words. Okay, so this will be a refresher for some. I might be boring others, and others this will be brand new. Okay, I like same sentence. If you know that they should be, you know, together enough that they are within between the periods, they are within a sentence, then I recommend that one. But I'll leave it up to you. Now, let's use the cases as an example here. I have 322. When I do this search, and this is just expanding that a little bit by putting them in the same sentence instead of that exact phrase, I now have 2,200. So what did I missed out on? You know, like, and no, discrimination on basis of age. The slash, by the way, is my favorite as well. Technically, there's a plus symbol. I don't use it, but the slash allows the terms to go on either side of each other. Okay, so you do have that ability to I should say, sorry, I got distracted by someone being admitted. I can see that on my screen. Sorry, so the slash allows the terms to go on either side. So it could be child custody or custody of the child. It could be age discrimination or discrimination on the basis of age. All right, but what if it was that they were discriminated based on their age? Because we don't have a huge amount of time. Usually I'd ask people, you know, what this is. I'm just going to tell you. We do have wildcards, or this one here is called a root expander. It's the exclamation mark. For those who thought it was the star, no. It's the exclamation mark. It's going to grab everything after that. It's going to get discriminate, discriminates, discriminating, discrimination, etc. If you like the asterisk, you can use it, but it replaces only one character or up to one character at a time. So this one here, it's going to get discriminate. Add a second one, I'm going to get up to discriminates and discriminated. Add another one, I'm going to get discriminating and discrimination as well. So you can technically use it, and it can be used in the middle of a word. Okay, but I'm going to use the exclamation mark to grab everything. So 2200, click on search, and this isn't even including the boards and tribunal decisions. I have 2600 now. I got 400 more documents. So I could have missed out on those. I usually recommend, guys, just to make your searching a little bit more efficient, in my opinion anyways, is to broaden it a bit. We have filters. You can narrow it down after. So 5700 isn't as scary as you think. 9700 total is not as scary as you think. Because if you are looking for case law as an example, when you click on cases, scroll down, you have all of the filters. So if this time we're interested in Nova Scotia, I could check off that box, and now I'm only viewing the cases from Nova Scotia. Now, in this search, by the way, everything defaults by relevance, but you can do, most recent first, oldest first, most cited, or court level, so you can reorder it as you see fit. While we're here in a list, I'm going to mention something else actually. Remember these folders that we have? We do have what we call an active folder as well, which by the way is changeable. So there is an icon here so you can change it to match whatever you're working on. So, for the GLC file that I'm working on, maybe I want that folder to be there, and I go and look and I'm like, oh, there's the folder. I can click it, okay, and this will change to the GLC folder. What's really cool about it is you can click, drag, and drop documents up into the folder. So it's really fast for you to put them in there. You can also select multiple, and duplicates are not allowed. So it's not going to put that first document in there again. It's going to say, I'm not going to allow it. Okay. So just wanted to mention that along the way. We also have the folder icon. So that's how you can save it into any of your folders, shared or otherwise. And then you also have, of course, once you've checked off the boxes, you can email, print, download, or send to your Kindle account as you see fit. Kindle, up to 24 documents at a time. Okay.
Hey, Allison, before you move on, we had a couple of questions which
excellent.
are kind of relevant here, I think. So you were talking about, getting overwhelmed by the number of searches that it might bring back, search results it brings back. But what is the minimum number? Or what is the number of results you would say is too low to start your search?
It's going to depend on, of course, the area of law. There may be some areas that haven't been researched too much. There could be, things like COVID, which is not even, a year old yet. And so there wouldn't be quite as much information on necessarily that particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be e-discovery is fairly new as well. And so there's not as many documents for that. So it's going to depend on the area. But I don't know if there's too low necessarily, again, depending on the area. But if you are getting, 5 cases or 10 cases, think about it and think, no, I think there really should be more. And then maybe just have a look at the top and just see how you've structured that search. Was it too narrow? Did I do everything as a phrase? Maybe I should expand. And even something like human right, I wouldn't probably, again, with this one, but maybe if that's got quotes around it and you think it's too, narrow, then take the quotes out and maybe do it /s as well. But I would broaden it as best you can. It might take a couple tries, but again, it's going to depend on the area of law, because if there's a topic that's not talked about a lot yet or brand new, you may not get very much.
Good point.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, good point. And then another question was, whilst you were talking about the booleans and using and or, can you use multiple booleans in the same search if you're doing an advanced search? So could you use and or? So could you use the two of them?
Oh yeah. So I could do, I'm just trying to think of a term with this. Oh, my brain's not working super well. But I can do, let's just pretend, I apologize, it doesn't have anything to do with this, and sorry for people watching the recording. But it mentioned earlier with tax and like car or automobile, if this is what you're thinking of. So automobile, Now, I can leave a space just in case you are not aware. Our default connector is OR. So when you are doing a Boolean search in WestlawNext Canada, if I leave this as a space because I'm doing a strict Boolean search, that's going to be an OR. Personally, what I recommend, guys, is always put in your connector. Doesn't matter which service you're using. Canly's default is AND. QuickLaw, I think, is some form of a phrase still. So we have different defaults. So if you wanted this to be an OR, I would probably, again, it doesn't have to be capitalized, but I would probably type it in. So I can do and OR, and I can do quotes. I can do, is this, I just want to make sure this is kind of what you mean. And I can do the /s as well. I can do all of these.
Yep, no, that looks right.
Perfect. Now the thing is, again, excuse the terms, just we'll pretend, because my brain was not thinking of extra terms. But let's, if you're wondering here what's happening first, there is an order of processing or order of operations. It is on the guide for Boolean. And again, we might have a slightly different one, say from QuickLaw or Canly, I'm not entirely sure. But certain things are calculated first. So what it's going to do, it's going to look at this here and it's going to say, are there any round brackets? Nope. All right, let's move on. Are there any quotation marks? Yep. We're going to go here and calculate human right or human rights. All right. Is there an or? Yep. It's going to do car or automobile. Is there anything with a / or a plus symbol? Yep. It's going to come over here then and calculate age within the same sentence as discriminate or whatever variance of that word. Is there an and? Yep. We've got the ands here. It's going to calculate those last or second last. The very last one it calculates is the but not. So if you're concerned though with this and you're just not sure what is being calculated, just think back to math class and you can put brackets in. Okay, and I'm very visual, so I actually love the brackets. This is going to do exactly the same thing as what I was going to do. But if again you're unsure, this is a great way to go about it. And you'll notice that I have ampersand here and I have and. Again, you can do both. You can technically put a space or type the word or as well for that one. Hopefully that makes sense and answers the question.
Yep, no, that sounds good. You may continue, sorry.
Perfect. No, that's no more questions, we're good?
No, I think we're good to continue on right now.
All right, awesome. So I'll just take those horrible terms out. Apologies again for that. I should have put something else there, but I just couldn't think of something. All right. So let's talk about some features actually that are in here. Let's say resort this maybe to most cited as an example. So most talked about. What we do in our list, by the way, is we put it here, judicially considered 39 times, judicially considered 28 times. So there's 28 cases, or 28, sorry, there's 28 cases that have talked about the Killen case. Okay, in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they considered it, maybe they followed it, what have you. You'll also notice this one has a red flag on it. Oh, and this one has a green C in this little memo pad. And, this one has an H and some, court document link here, some little pages. But if you hover, you can see this means that there are court documents available. It is a separate subscription. I'm sorry, it's part of Litigator, but there are court documents. So pleadings, motions, factum, statements of claim, applications, that kind of thing. We do have those on the system for certain documents, and this happens to be one of them. Okay, the memo pad means that this case has been mentioned or used in at least one legal memoranda on the system. So that's what that one is. The other ones here, so if I click into say Adams, the other ones, so the flagging system, there's a red flag, a yellow flag, a blue H, and a green C. It's part of KeyCite Canada. So if we click this powered by KeyCite Canada, it will actually show you the red flag. It means that the case may not be good law anymore, may have been overruled, reversed, or not followed by the SCC or the same jurisdiction. In whole or in part, guys, you still want to look at the decision. So don't see a red flag, that's bad, and then move on. It still could be useful because the area you're interested in could still be good law. Okay. The yellow flag means it may have been distinguished. Maybe the facts of law weren't quite the same, so they distinguished it. Maybe someone didn't like it in Nunavut. And it was a BC decision. So if it's not followed in or by Nunavut or outside of your own jurisdiction, it gets a yellow flag. If it's not followed by your own jurisdiction, then it gets a red flag because it's more severe if your own jurisdiction or province doesn't like it. This yellow flag too is kind of a neat one in that it will also let you know if there is a new document talking about that particular case, but we haven't had a chance to give the treatment yet. It hasn't been designated. So if that's the case, maybe we don't know whether it followed it or whatever, but we want to get it up there as soon as possible so that you know it at least talks about, say, the Adams case. We'll throw a yellow flag on it. And then once it's decided where it's supposed to be, and if it's not, anything to do, it hasn't been distinguished or whatever, it will lose the yellow flag. Okay. H, history. Now, history on our system, I didn't mention it. I did show it, say it shows you where it's gone through the court system, but it also includes related proceedings, and those could be, motions or applications, or, maybe something to do with costs or something like that that's kind of branched out from that original decision. So that will be in your history as well. And then C means there's no history, but there are citing references. So somebody has either cited or referenced or talked about the Adams decision that we're looking at here. Okay, and for just you guys to become familiar with stuff as you're using the service, here's some terminology as well. What do we mean by distinguished or reversed in part or varied on reconsideration? What is our depth of treatment? What for legislation? It's in here as well. What is unconstitutional? What is treatment not yet designated or what have you? Okay, so it's all listed in here, and you just click on the Powered by KeyCite Canada. So remember, KeyCite is your citator. Okay. All right. Now, other little things real quick. You can go to a certain spot in the document. I want to jump to the opinion. Sure, why not? I want to go to paragraph 12. Okay. So you can do that if you'd like. You can set up alerts. We don't have time to go through that today, but you can create an alert for this. It'll automatically weekly, biweekly, or monthly let you know if Adams gets talked about or its history changes. You can do a search within. You can add notes if you like. So annotate it. This is awesome. Oop, I can't type. And then you can save it on there. And so it was awesome on January 20th. That kind of thing. You can put it in a folder, email, print, download. Printing, delivery options are always in the upper right-hand corner for you. And one thing to mention too, if you do add notes and you decide to email or print or do anything like that, document and my annotations or the clean copy. And you can do whatever formatting you'd like. WordPerfect even, guys. For those youngins on the line, you may not know what that is. All right, one last little thing here that I want to mention as well, and not all of you maybe have used it before. In fact, I'll just go down into the paragraphs. Look away again if you get nauseous. There is a feature in here called Copy with Reference. Some of you might be familiar, but this is actually going to be very handy, and we have a new feature, which I'll show you. But the Copy with Reference will copy that paragraph that I have selected, and if I go over here to Word and I paste it, there's my paragraph, there's the name of the case, plus all of the parallel citations for it. I just want the neutral cite. You could just delete all of the other ones if you want. But since it has a neutral cite, that is incredibly handy because we have a new feature. It just came out in September, copy, neutral, and pinpoint. So highlight with your mouse, copy, neutral, and pinpoint. Go over to wherever, email, Word, whatever you want. Paste it. Same idea with the paragraph, but hypertext link back into Westlaw to the Adams decision, neutral cite, and it tells you it came from paragraph 7. So if you had just, maybe you hadn't grabbed where the number is, the paragraph number, and you just had this, you're like, I don't know where it's from. This actually tells you paragraph 7. Only with the neutral cites though, and only cases from 2000 roughly, depending on which jurisdiction, forward will have a neutral cite available to you. If it doesn't, this feature is super handy, just the copy with reference. And you can do the copy with reference on any document in the system. So with a book, it'll give you the title of the book and the chapter and things like that. So it gives you a reference for whatever it is you've selected or copied. Okay, that's usually my little mic drop one with the, the copy, neutral, and pinpoint. But you can save the paragraph to your active folder. You can add a note, you can highlight throughout. There's all these cool little features that are very, very handy. But again, in a document, look up. History, citing references. This one has court documents. I can go term to term or document to document. I can print, email, download. It's all above. Okay, and I can return to list and go back and look at some other stuff as well. And the cool thing, and I personally prefer, why do 5 searches when I can do 1? I search from the main page instead of just searching case law. And then realizing, oh, I should have searched commentary, and then going back and searching the texts. And then, oh, maybe I should have looked at legislation, and then going back and doing a 3rd search. Just do it at once, and ta-da, you have your results across the board. Okay. All right, so I'm going to return back to the home page here, and I totally went over time, and apologies on that one. There's a lot in this product. It's honestly, and I know they pay me, but I love WestlawNext Canada. I think they've done a lovely job creating it, and the content it's second to none. But that being said, again, not any service out there is going to have everything, so you do want to look at other things. And again, it could be, say, QuickLaw or Canly. They may have different authors too, so you get different perspectives. So it doesn't hurt to check out, kind of all of the sources that are available. Okay. Any questions? Anything else show up in the chat?
We were discussing whilst you were talking if this was if Keysight was similar to Shepherd-Eyes, which is a feature on LexisNexis, and it is. I was able to Google that, and it is.
Thank you.
So I shared a link, so I was able to answer that question.
Isn't that lovely how we have different names? So ours is Keysight Canada. QuickLaw used to be, well, I think LexisNexis, so that's more the US, I think it says Shepherdizing. I don't know what they did with QuickLaw Advanced though, so maybe it's Shepherdizing on there now. Used to be called QuickSight, and then Canly just calls it NoteUp. So, but you're absolutely correct. It's the same thing. Same thing. Great questions.
Somebody else, Christopher asked, so is the only function of the brackets to tell the program which terms internal to the brackets to search first?
Yes, it's giving, it's telling you that you want to do the addition or subtraction before the multiplication division. So you're forcing the service to calculate that piece of the equation. I know it's terrible for those that hate math, but that's a great way, honestly, to look at it. It is essentially forcing the service to calculate that little bit first. Okay.
Fantastic. That's going back to your order of priority comment earlier on that you were talking about in the
yes. Yeah, so that's or if they call it like order of processing, or with math it's order of operations, or that kind of thing. I do have a list of it. I mentioned the order that they do in fact go in, but you're not going to remember everything, guys, from this session. There's no way. But I can include it in the Boolean, or in my follow-up. I can include the Boolean guide, and there's also the help here at the top if you do subscribe, or just Google the Learning Center for Westlaw, and you'll WestlawNext Canada. Just remember the Canada part, because we will have different resources for the US and international.
Absolutely. It's definitely different to the UK.
It is different to the UK. Now, we can technically access UK stuff, but it actually goes through the Westlaw US platform and through our international tab here. So it's a bit of a different beast. So what you're actually used to, Siobhan, it's a different site even altogether that you would use.
Yeah. I mean, it was red.
Wow. That is next level. That would be scary, I think, almost.
Yeah, it was very angry inducing whilst you were doing it. Maybe that's the reason why I don't like legal research. Or
maybe that's it.
Or maybe it's actually that I was very fortunate to have some incredible legal researchers in the firms that I worked at, where
you know what, that helps. Honestly, that helps. Again, the librarian, or depending on how far up you are, if you're more of a senior associate and stuff, and then you have the poor articling students and everything underneath you, but some of them are amazing resources or researchers, and you tend to rely on them. I mean, why do it if someone else can do it as well, if not better?
Absolutely. But today you've all learned some tips, hopefully, that will make you more efficient and better at doing your legal research that you have to do, so you're not necessarily having to rely on those incredible individuals who are able to do it. But we have gone over time.
Yes, my
apologies. I'm conscious that everybody has things they want to do right now, but does anyone have any final questions for Allison whilst we have her? You are welcome to ask them. You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask them.
Yeah.
You can drop it in the chat either way. Just let us know. And just as a reminder, we will be circulating these slides. It will be in the next couple of days, so don't panic if they're not in your inbox when you wake up tomorrow morning. The likelihood is that we won't get the email out tonight, but we will get it out to you, so never fear. And all of the links on Allison's presentation are hyperlinks, so you can just click on them and they will take you automatically there. So it's a super handy guide for you all.
Perfect. So
I
no
have
more
a quick question.
I think you've bamboozled everybody.
Oh, I think someone's asking a question.
Hi, Allison. I was just going to ask a quick question, and that is regarding the difference between CAD and CED. So you have the Encyclopedia Digest and then the Abridgment Digest. I didn't quite understand what that was. If you could speak to that briefly.
Yeah, no problem. Now, hopefully you can see the WestlawNext Canada screen again, correct?
That's right, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, I always just wonder, like, can you see it or not? Perfect. So the CAD, or the Canadian Abridgment Digest, and I can just show you real quick. Maybe you choose, contracts, and you're interested in case law that deals with parties to contract, and you're dealing with natural persons and mental incapacity. You can click on that link, and what it does is it brings up a list of cases that are filed under that area of law, and that's it. It's great. There's 82. You can, drill down by jurisdiction as you see fit. You can, I just want, natural, there's a few more here under natural persons because there's other subcategories that you could look at as well. So you can go up the chain if you want to get a few more, but realistically, it is just a quick way to find cases by topic. All right. So just the case law. The Encyclopedic Digest, if you start here, first of all, there's an Ontario and a Western edition. Apologies for that. It's Ontario or everybody else is Western. So depending on where you are, if there is an option, choose the appropriate one for you. But if you are looking, say, for information on animals, and we're dealing with property in animals, and we're dealing with wild animals, and we want to go look at this paragraph, instead of it going to a list of cases, it's coming to a definition of that area of law so that you can understand the issue a little bit better. So the property and all wildlife in the province is vested in the Crown, and you'll see number 1 here with a footnote, so it might refer you to an act or maybe some case law or something on the system as well, which is great, but it's more of like what it thinks are sort of like the key decisions and things like that. Whereas the abridgment was taking us to all decisions and not giving us a definition. What's neat about the Encyclopedic Digest is it actually does both realistically. So it gives you the definition here with footnotes to sort of some key decisions, but there's the link to the abridgment, and I can find all of the decisions, not the ones just mentioned here, but all of them that we have filed under commercial law, agricultural products, property, and wild animals. I just click that link. And then I'm here, there's property and wild animals. So it's like I'm browsing that CAD again, or the abridgment. And now I'm going to have a bunch of cases. So depending on your needs, if you know the area of law, go ahead and start in the abridgment. If you are not as familiar with the area of law, I recommend the CED or the Canadian Encyclopedic Digest because it will give you a definition or understanding of that area first and then lead you into the case law. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That was a very helpful explanation.
Perfect.
I was also curious about the legal memoranda and who is providing Westlaw with the memos,
For sure.
or what the source for the memos is. And more broadly, I'm curious as to how committed Westlaw is to updating the information. So like when new cases come out, how frequently does it sort of update its database?
For the legal memos in particular.
For the memos, but also more broadly. So like
okay.
for regular cases.
No, that's fine. Yeah, so for case law in general, we add stuff all throughout the day. There will be also a hierarchy. So if the Supreme Court of Canada decision comes in and a BC provincial court decision comes in, Supreme Court of Canada is going to get precedence and we're going to put it up on the system faster. So I'd like to say that Supreme Court of Canada decisions will be on the system roughly within the day that we receive it. And then even, a provincial level court could be in that day. It depends on the workload that we have that day, but it could be that same day or maybe up to 3 or 4 days that it's into the system. So they do update the system, like the case law, fairly quickly. Okay. With regards to legal memoranda though, it has an update rate of guaranteed of a 3-year period. Obviously, if the area of law changes significantly, we're going to update those a little faster. But it has a guaranteed update of 3-year period. So you'll see the original date on it, and you will also see the last known update. Now, what you'll also see on it, and I can go, I'll just browse. You can browse, by the way, you can see even how many there are. Maybe you're dealing with health law. And say hospitals, but just so you can see, real quick. Can a hospital be liable in negligence for revoking hospital privileges? I'm going to click on it so you can see. They come in small, medium, and large too, by the way. Small is 0 to 5, 6 to 15 is medium, and 16 up page-wise is large. Alberta, date 2013, updated date January 1st of 2019. It's still within that 3-year period, but it could be updated tomorrow again if something changes significantly. What you'll also notice is, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom. This one, the last one we saw earlier, had the author, had the name of the actual lawyer. We have either a lawyer's name here, we have a law firm's name. Clark Wilson in British Columbia is one of the firms that has done memos for us and are on the system. And then the third option really will be this legal outsourcing network, which is more like an internal sort of company that we have, where they are creating those. They're all lawyer editors that are working on it. So you're going to have sort of one of those three things: the name of the actual lawyer, the firm, or this legal outsourcing network, again, with that sort of 3-year guaranteed update period of the memos itself. Of themselves. Okay, does that answer all the questions?
It does, yes. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. Any other questions? You guys are all good now?
You know, I think you've given us all so much to think about. We now need to just go and play with Westlaw.
Excellent. That's your homework, guys. Yeah, get out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have access to the product and you're able to take advantage of that. As Siobhan was saying, we're going to send some sort of follow-up as well. So you'll be able to, if you have any future questions, or you realize after the fact, because that's always the way, right? Hindsight 2020. Let us know the questions afterwards, and happy to answer them. I basically come with the product, good or bad, I don't know, but I do.
No, it's fantastic. And just to give everyone a heads up, we will be doing follow-up sessions with Allison. She's very kindly offered to come back and show us more of the Thomson Reuters products that they have. For example, the tax program, and also Practical Law Canada, which is one of my favorite programs. So we will be coming back later on throughout the year to do those sessions. So do keep an eye on our website. We will be sharing those once we've fitted in some dates into Allison's calendar, and we'll be sharing those with all of you. But if there are some common questions that keep coming up from you guys, and please do send them across, then we can always do an ad hoc session as well, where we take some of those questions, and they could be quite specific. They could be very tailored to your practice area. So if you particularly practice in, say, immigration law, and you have some very specific questions about searching for immigration law cases and commentary and material, then Allison has very kindly said she will do a very special session specifically around questions.
Yeah, whatever you guys want.
Any other area.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you guys need, let me know. I'm more than happy to do it. I'll try to stick on time next time. So my apologies. Westlaw is a bit of a beast. She's a beautiful product, but there's a lot of cool little things with it that, I guess I get kind of excited to show.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. And we appreciate how much you were able to pack into this session, because it is one of those programs that's constantly evolving. And there are so many different ways that you can use the program as well, which you've shown us tonight, just a couple of the different ways to do it, which hopefully will match one of your preferred styles for each of you who's using the product. I know back in the day we used to use booleans a lot, but now having that naturally speaking search function, it's a little bit more like using search engines that we might use on the internet generally. So it's sometimes just a little bit more familiar than maybe the boolean searches are these days. So that was great to have that, and to have the guide and some tips on how you can actually use those Boolean searches to be most effective. Because if anybody has tried to do a formula recently using Excel, it's basically like that. You've got to put them in the right order. Otherwise you just get back with, they don't understand what that is. It's an invalid formula.
It's a computer program, I said, right? So yeah, it's got this logic in the background, and you need to follow it, or it just doesn't get it.
Absolutely. So just as a reminder, we will be sending out the slides. We are going to have a little look and see if we can also put this recording onto our YouTube channel as well. We just need to tweak it and edit it a little bit. But if you do have any follow-up questions, please do reach out to Allison or myself. I will honestly just forward the questions to Allison for you, but I'm happy to do that. But thank you all so much for your participation tonight. Like, your questions were fantastic.
That's wonderful.
They really helped Allison really deep dive into some of the functions with the software. And Allison, thank you for giving us your time. And
oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm looking at the chat a little bit, and you know, thank you so much. You're welcome. And I'm glad you enjoyed it and you all stayed awake. So that's that's awesome.
Definitely we did. So everyone, thank you. Thank you for joining us. If you're writing your exams at the moment, if you're doing the NCA or preparing for the bar exams, we all wish you the best of luck.
Yes,
And for those of you who are just working and studying, keep going. You guys have got this. We're like, you know, today was a pretty impressive day. So all around, and we got to cap it off with Allison being here tonight.
Yay.
And we'll see you all soon. And for those of you
Yes.
who are interested, we are doing a GLC Women in Law series at the moment. It's running for 8 weeks. We're currently on week 3, and tomorrow it's all about parenting and law. So how can you be a parent and be a lawyer at the same time? And is there such a thing as having it all at once? Next week we'll be doing women in tax. So we'll actually be joined by 4 tax professionals from across the country who'll be sharing their insights into what it's like to practice tax law across Canada. And then we have some very specific ones around internationally trained lawyers, diversity and inclusion, and all sorts of good things like that. So we hope you come back. You can find all of those details for the events on our website, so do check it out. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. And Allison, thank you. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you guys, and stay safe. Take care.